Hello, friends. Our conversation today is titled, You Might Have to Not Do CrossFit to Get Good at CrossFit.
That's ridiculous.
What?
Who'd have thought? The irony with CrossFit is that most people that are very, very good at it didn't do CrossFit to get good at it. They had an elite background in weightlifting or an elite background in gymnastics or some conditioning sport, and they've brought that into CrossFit, and that's why they excelled so fast. I mean, some people get really, really good, really, really fast. Matt Frazier might be the best example, but we do always forget too how athletic somebody like Rich Froning was very good at many sports when he started. As we've said over the last few weeks, CrossFit is a sport, which means that how we train for it, we have to live outside the sport a little bit. So to be really, really good at CrossFit, you actually have to not do CrossFit for many, many, many years. And that is like such a switch for many of you. You know, you fall in love with the sport of CrossFit, which is good. You fall in love with doing metabolic conditioning. But I promise you, if you can have seasons where you develop a strong skill set in these segmented sports like Olympic lifting, running, rowing, gymnastics, and then you start to put that together, you'll be shocked on how easy it is. Coach Somner, who is one of the best American gymnastics coaches, puts his elite gymnasts through this workout I read in this article that was a 20-minute AMRAP. And these are athletes that do not do AMRAPs. And it was 12 bar muscle ups on like a gymnastics bar, which is like the bendy one, which is harder than a steel bar, and 20 jumping air squats.
Ew.
And he was like, hey, I want to see how my gymnasts do with this. It was a bit of an experiment because these gymnasts could already do a strict bar muscle up with like 200 pounds on their body. You know, these are 150 pound or whatever gymnasts. They're doing well over body weight. So they're very, very, very strong. And so he wanted to see how could they do with like a kipping bar muscle up in a metabolic state for a long time. The results were insane. These gymnasts did 13 rounds on that workout.
That's a lot of bar muscle ups.
130.
Oh my God.
130 bar muscle up, 230 jumping squats. And here's the part that was the most intriguing was when they finished, they were like, is that it? What else are we doing? That was it. That was fine. And so they went on and did other work. Coach Somner's takeaway was like, strength is so powerful. If a contraction of a rep is that easy, then you can just keep going on and on and on and on. And I think for many of us in CrossFit, everything is just too hard. You know, if we think about some of these benchmark tests that we do, let's just take like a Fran, for example, because that's one that a lot of people know. If 95 pounds or 65 pounds just feels heavy for you,
You got to get strong.
yeah, like it's got to feel... Like I'm imagining for these gymnasts, a bar muscle up must feel like a ring row. You did Fran and like the bar felt like 15 pounds.
What did you say the other day? You wanted your thruster to feel like a pencil?
A pencil. I want it to feel like a pencil. That's why I'm lifting so much.
Yeah.
The big shift that we are presenting is that every single athlete needs to have a season every year where they do basically not a lot of CrossFit. You know, will actually make them better at CrossFit. What a paradox. That's what we need. What do you think, Maddie?
I think it's true. As much as I love my Metcons, if you want a Metcon to feel good, like those gymnasts, you have to be stronger. You want your bar muscle up to feel like a ring row. We got to work on our strength.
What does training outside of CrossFit look like? Starts with strength and hypertrophy blocks. You have to just be a weightlifter. You have to get strong enough so a lot of these contractions just feel easier. And you know, the easiest way to think about this is think about the people that you compete against. Because again, if you end up in a local competition or you end up doing the open or maybe you're just competing with people in your class, like in your class that you go to or whatever, the people that you hang out with in the gym, I want you to think about this. If you're not as strong as them, then you're not even really competing because the stronger person will always win. You might win like a run. You're not really competing until you're as strong as the other person you're competing with. And then we can start talking about like, do you have the capacity to beat them? But it's always first and foremost, become a weightlifter and get strong. And then we can start having the conversation about other stuff. I also think it looks like being a gymnast. So a gymnast, you would go through gymnastics progressions. So you would have, front lever progressions or core progressions. You would have pulling progressions. You would have pushing progressions. And you would just go through those. You do gymnastic strength. If you do that, it's going to make you a better gymnast, because then when you start doing harder things, you have the strength to do them. And that's the whole point, is they want to see what progression you're on so that they know what you can work on. You can't really work on anything if you don't have a certain prerequisite level of strength. We have this be a weightlifter, be a gymnast, and then also be an aerobic athlete. You need to spend a lot more time in heart rate zones than 12 minutes a week or, 30 minutes a week over 4 workouts. Like, you got to do it much more. A lot of elite endurance athletes are spending 7 to 15 hours a week in their zone 1 to 3, probably. That's a lot of time. That's a big base of fitness. And so if that's what you want to improve, then you should spend a season in working on that. And that's been fun to see some of the athletes that work on that, how much better they get as their aerobic base. And then obviously, we already said this with weightlifting, but I'd say the other side of that is like bodybuilding. Got to become a bodybuilder. And you want to know why you need to become a bodybuilder?
Why?
Because you need to make your muscles bigger.
How can I grow my side delts faster?
If anybody can teach me how to do something faster when it comes to weightlifting, I would love to hear that. Body grows as the body grows.
What? Bigger?
Because a small muscle can only get so strong.
Science.
I mean, if your muscle is larger, it has more potential to get stronger. Mind-blowing. Who knew?
It really is.
Let's talk about that one more time. Sum it up. Become a weightlifter, get really strong, be a gymnast, do gymnastic strength, be an endurance athlete, do lots of base building, 7 to 15 hours a week, and then also be a bodybuilder and get biceps like Arnold. You know what I'm saying? That just pop.
Or like Coach Marina.
Yeah. Like we said, you can't do all of this all at once. You need to pick which one you're going to work on. You can't.
I can't get better at all of them at once?
No, you can't.
Are you
It's
sure?
called concurrent training, and it doesn't work once you get good. Hello, watch our video on concurrent training. You have to pick a focus, get good at it, and go to the next one. But the good news is, if you get good at something, you don't lose it as much as you think. So once you get it, you have it. That's why somebody like Matt Frazier can say, oh, I haven't cleaned a barbell in 9 months. And then he wins the clean at it's like mind-blowing. It's because he did so much of it, you actually eventually don't have to work on that as much. Isn't that, I'm just going to be honest for a second, isn't that common sense? Sometimes I feel like some of this stuff is not super complicated.
I mean, it's common sense when you put it into like other sports. Like if you're talking about something other than CrossFit, people would agree with you. But for some reason, CrossFit athletes are very set on having to do everything all the time. I don't know why. I was one of them, so I can't. No hate. It's hard to get out of that mindset.
The good news is too, training like this is actually really rewarding and fun. It's not as boring as you might think, because funnest thing in the gym is getting better. Yes, I just said funnest. The funnest thing that you can experience in the gym is improving. And there's nothing more fun than building a lot of fatigue and just feeling like you suck. I mean, it's not a great feeling.
Well, yeah, that's when you burn out and you stop completely.
Yeah.
Because it's not fun anymore.
The bottom line, the truth is, to get better at CrossFit, you probably need to stop doing so much CrossFit. You need to build strength. You need to build skills. You need to be a gymnast, and you need to build an engine. And then once you do that, you bring it all back together. And then you do CrossFit, and it feels good. Be good at all these things first before you mix it all together. And if you do that, my friends, you will fall in love with CrossFit again, I promise. And if you want to learn how to train like this or train like this in a community, we're the ones to go find in Portland, Oregon. Blue House, baby. We'll see you soon.